On February 19, 2020, Pop Smoke was murdered in a Hollywood Hills home invasion. Now, gang members have revealed the disturbing last words of his killer, and they're shockingly unrepentant.
I'm not sorry about nothing. No, it should never happen, but I ain't sorry.
Did Blockstar even know who he killed? How much did they get paid for taking a legend's life? I've got the full story. Let's get into it. The night everything went left. February 19th, 2020, the night the streets got cold and hip-hop lost one of its realest. This wasn't just some regular L for the culture. This was the type of tragedy that showed how quick everything can get flipped when clout, the gram, and street politics crash into each other like a head-on collision with no survivors. Pop Smoke, born Bashar Baraka Jackson, was only 20 years old when they took his life in what the feds later called a home invasion lick gone catastrophically sideways. But yo, to really understand how wild this whole situation got, how a Brooklyn drill legend ended up fighting for his life in some rented crib in the hills, we gotta rewind the tape and break down every last detail of that fatal night. A night that started regular for Pop but ended with the whole hip-hop community in mourning and the streets heated beyond measure. The whole saga kicks off with something that happens every day in 2020, posting on the gram. Pop Smoke was posted up at a rental spot in the Hollywood Hills, enjoying his evening in one of LA's most bougie neighborhoods where the bread is long and the views are crazy. Like mad celebrities do on the daily, Pop hopped on his Instagram story to show love for a gift bag somebody blessed him with. Seemed innocent enough, just connecting with his millions of followers who was riding with the woo movement. But buried in that harmless flex was a deadly mistake that would cost him everything. The crib's addy was visible clear as day on that gift bag tag for any vulture with bad intentions to peep and exploit. What Pop didn't know, what he couldn't have possibly anticipated while just living his life and showing appreciation, was that grimy eyes were definitely watching. Not just fans wanting to see what their favorite artist was getting into, but straight predators hunting for a come-up, for a weakness, for a lick worth the risk. Those eyes belonged to members of the Hoover Criminals Gang, one of South LA's most notorious and treacherous street organizations, with a reputation for putting in work that went back decades in the city's bloody gang chronicles. These weren't just some random jackers looking for a quick flip. They was organized, they was dangerous, and they was about to make a move that would send shockwaves through the entire music game. The play itself was calculated, but messy as hell. Surveillance footage caught a black BMW circling the property earlier that evening, the occupants clearly casing the spot, studying the layout, scoping out entry points. Then came the Infinity Whip pulling up with purpose as four masked up individuals slid out, moving toward the house with that seasoned precision that told you this wasn't their first time sliding on somebody. They breached through a second floor balcony, bypassing the ground level security like it was nothing. Pop was in the bathroom, completely vulnerable, caught slipping in the worst possible position when the ops came knocking. The masked shooters ran down on him immediately. Their demands was simple and straight to the point. Jewelry, valuables, anything that could get flipped into cash on the block quick. At first, Pop tried to play it cool and de-escalate, probably thinking cooperation would keep him breathing. He started handing over items, probably calculating that giving them what they wanted would be enough to make them slide out and leave him alive to see another day. But then one of the intruders said, "Thank you," and something inside Pop's Brooklyn heart snapped. That street instinct kicked in, that refusal to go out like a sucker, and he rushed the masked gunman in a desperate last stand.
Too much movement. That's all, too much movement.
As a movement from Pop Smoke
Movement from everybody.
in the house.
Too much shit going on. It's too much shit going on.
What Blockstar would later describe as turned into straight carnage. Pop Smoke got pistol whipped viciously, the blick connecting with his dome in blows meant to put him down and establish dominance through raw violence. But the beating wasn't enough. That's not where the madness ended. The 15-year-old shooter, who'd later be known publicly as Blockstar, let off 3 shots into Pop Smoke's chest, each bullet ripping through vital organs as he collapsed on the staircase of what was supposed to be his safe haven from the streets. Amelia Rose, who was with Pop that night, recalled the horror during her testimony on the Hip Hop Homicides podcast. Shorty heard the commotion, the violence, the gunshots that shattered the silence like thunder breaking through storm clouds. She ran to Pop's side, held him as his life was draining away, felt his blood on her hands while she desperately tried to save him. Pop. Smoke's actual last words before the home invasion were heartbreakingly regular and painfully normal. "Okay, I'll come back," spoken as he headed to the bathroom moments before hell came crashing through his door in ski masks and gloves. And what did these crash out dumb dummies get for taking a whole life. They jacked a Rolex watch that they later flipped for a measly 2 bands, $2,000 for a life, for a future, for all the music that would never drop, for all the shows that would never happen. A transaction so lopsided and fundamentally backwards, it don't even make sense to anybody with a functioning conscience. As Blockstar would later reveal in some chilling detail that had everybody's jaw on the floor.
I didn't know him at all. I didn't know of him. I probably seen one picture of him before and like, I thought he was a model. I was like, you got a good modeling career going on.
He ain't even know he just smoked one of hip-hop's brightest young stars on the rise. Pop Smoke got rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, doctors and nurses fighting like crazy to bring him back, but their heroic efforts couldn't reverse the damage them 3 bullets did to his young body. He was pronounced dead at the hospital, another name added to hip-hop's tragic list of fallen soldiers, another talented young brother gone too soon to senseless violence. The next morning, life kept moving for the perpetrators in the most surreal way you could imagine. Blockstar would later describe the haunting experience of watching his teacher discuss Pop Smoke's murder on the classroom projector while he sat there with guilt eating him up inside, forced to keep a poker face and show no emotion as the world began processing what he had just done hours before.
I had to go to school the next morning. I go to school the next morning. I step into my classroom, the teacher put it right there on the big screen.
The LAPD immediately launched a full-scale investigation, initially exploring whether this might have been gang-related beef given Pop Smoke's well-documented Crip ties through his Brooklyn connections. But as the detectives kept digging, as they pieced together evidence and tracked down leads across the city, a different picture started developing. This wasn't about gang warfare or territorial disputes. This was about a robbery, straight up, though the fact that it was committed by individuals with deep gang affiliations would prove crucial to understanding how such young crash-outs could execute such a brazen and violent lick with that kind of cold efficiency. The investigation that followed would eventually bring some justice, but it would also expose some disturbing truths about youth violence, gang culture, and how social media fame intersects with street-level criminality in ways that keep destroying lives across America. And as we'll break down in part 2, the revelations that would come straight from the suspects' mouths in jailhouse conversations, courtroom testimonies, and most controversially, in media interviews that sparked nationwide outrage, would prove even more disturbing than the crime itself. The gang members speak. The arrest came months after Pop Smoke got killed, the result of some serious detective work that mixed modern technology with old-school street investigation tactics. Detectives used cell tower data to track the suspect's movements on the night of the murder, following digital breadcrumbs that these young boys probably didn't even realize they was dropping as they drove through LA, with murder on their minds and greed in their hearts. Anonymous tips flooded in from people in the community who heard things, saw things, knew things. They couldn't keep quiet once they understood the magnitude of who got taken and how it went down. But perhaps the most damning evidence, the smoking gun that would ultimately seal these dudes' fates, came from an unexpected source, the suspects themselves, talking reckless in jailhouse conversations that they apparently thought was private, but was actually being monitored and recorded by authorities who knew exactly what they was doing when they placed certain individuals in certain cells together and waited for the bragging to start popping off. The 15-year-old shooter, Blockstar, told a cellmate in recorded conversations that he let off 3 times after Pop Smoke fought back, describing the murder with a casualness that had everybody who heard the recordings sick to their stomach, like he was discussing some video game mission instead of actually taking another human being's life. Corey Walker, who was 19 at the time and would later be identified as the driver and mastermind behind the play, provided even more disturbing details in his own monitored conversations with other inmates. He broke down how he provided gloves and masks to the crew, how he armed 2 young shorties with the straps they would use to terrorize and ultimately kill Pop Smoke, how he orchestrated the whole operation with a level of planning that showed this wasn't some spontaneous move, but rather a calculated criminal enterprise targeting someone specifically because of their perceived wealth and relative vulnerability being out of their element far from Brooklyn. The suspects, who eventually got booked, painted a troubling picture of America's youth gang problem and the culture of violence that stays destroying certain communities despite decades of intervention attempts and anti-gang initiatives. Blockstar, the 15-year-old trigger triggerman, was affiliated with the Hoover Criminals gang and admitted to murder, home invasion, and firearm use. He got sentenced to 4 years in juvenile detention and held until age 25, a sentence that had many people heated, feeling like it was way too lenient given the severity of his actions and the permanent damage he inflicted on Pop Smoke's family, friends, and countless fans worldwide. Corey Walker took a plea deal in February 2025, accepting voluntary manslaughter charges with home invasion and gang enhancements that would send him upstate for 29 years. During his sentencing, Walker offered what seemed like a genuine apology, stating, "I sincerely apologize for my unforgivable actions." Words that stood in stark contrast to what would later come out of his younger co-defendant's mouth and showed at least some capacity for remorse and understanding of how heavy what he participated in really was. Keandre D. Rogers, 18 at the time, and Jaquan Murphy, 21, also got booked as participants in the murder, with both cats having ties to other violent crimes, including a body at the Rose Bowl that demonstrated this crew's pattern of violence extended far beyond their attack on Pop Smoke and represented a genuine ongoing threat to public safety. A fourth, unnamed juvenile who was 17 at the time, also got charged with murder and sentenced through the juvenile justice system, with details being kept under wraps due to his minor status, a legal protection that many victims' advocates find frustrating when the crimes committed are so serious and the harm inflicted so permanent. Testimonies revealed that this unnamed 17-year-old had pistol-whipped Pop Smoke during the attack, adding another layer of brutality to an already horrific crime scene and demonstrating the casual violence these young dudes was capable of inflicting without apparent hesitation. Police also linked members of this crew to another homicide at the Rose Bowl, underscoring their violent history and establishing a pattern showing this wasn't aberrant behavior, but rather part of their regular street activities, a crime spree that had claimed multiple lives before law enforcement was finally able to bring them in. But while court proceedings and legal consequences unfolded over the years following Pop Smoke's death, the story took an unexpected and deeply controversial turn in July 2024, when Blockstar, having been released from juvenile detention after serving his 4-year bid, sat down for an interview that would ignite a firestorm of criticism, outrage, and debate about media ethics, platform responsibility, and society's fascination with true crime narratives, even when they cause real pain to real people still grieving real losses. The No Jumper interview with Blockstar became one of the most talked about and criticized pieces of content in hip-hop media history, not because it revealed shocking new information about the murder itself, but because of what it revealed about the mindset of the young man who pulled the trigger and how little he seemed to have processed the gravity of what he did, despite his years locked up and whatever rehabilitation efforts had supposedly been made during his time in the juvenile system. Throughout the interview, Blockstar discussed his troubled upbringing with a level of openness that might have been compelling if it wasn't overshadowed by what he would say about Pop Smoke's death.
I originally grew up in Compton, but from Compton, I ended up getting kicked out of too many schools, so they ended up moving me to LA. And once I went to LA, I started up over there.
He described an absent Pops, constant school expulsions for scrapping, and getting put on with gang life at age 13.
Since I was 2, he got locked up so many times, just numerous times.
And that's interesting because I don't hear a lot of people be honest about the fact that their dad being locked up them up mentally as they get older.
Yeah, nah, like while I was in jail, I was like, I had to sit down and think about it. Like, I was just fighting everybody, just doing dumb stuff, breaking shit, smoking, popping bars, all type of shit, just basically thinking like, this is the end of the road, like, I'm finna crash out. But then it comes from like, I had to think like, damn, my brother just went to jail for murder 3 months after me. My dad done been, like, this is like, it's in my blood, like, all this anger that we got.
Painting a picture of a childhood defined by violence, anger, and a search for belonging that he found in the dangerous embrace of the Hoover Criminals gang, where violence was currency and your reputation was everything. But it was his discussion of Pop Smoke's murder and his complete lack of remorse that truly shook viewers and sparked the intense backlash that would follow the interview's release. When asked about the incident, Blockstar characterized it as a botched robbery rather than a targeted assassination, denying persistent street rumors that someone had set Pop Smoke up or that there was some deeper conspiracy behind the killing beyond simple criminal opportunism and teenage greed. His words about remorse, or rather his shocking lack thereof, became the most widely circulated and criticized moments of the entire interview.
I'm not sorry about nothing. No, it should never happen, but I ain't sorry. Feel me? Like, if I could go back, I'll go back. But I ain't sorry. Like, niggas die every day. Like, he was rapping about it. All type of shit. So I ain't sorry about it.
These words, delivered with a casual confidence that suggested he genuinely didn't understand why anyone would expect him to feel differently, sent shockwaves through the hip-hop community and beyond, prompting questions about whether some people are simply incapable of true remorse or whether the system has failed so completely that even those who commit the most serious crimes emerge from incarceration without any real understanding of the harm they've caused. He elaborated further on his perspective, doubling down on his refusal to apologize in terms that invoked street code and gang culture.
Like, whatever you did it for a reason, and stand on it.
A philosophy that values keeping it solid and consistent over moral growth or genuine accountability, that treats regret as weakness rather than wisdom, that fundamentally rejects the premise that acknowledging wrongdoing is necessary for moving forward as a better person. Blockstar did acknowledge sending condolences to Pop Smoke's family, a gesture that might have seemed meaningful if it hadn't been immediately undermined by everything else he said during the interview and his clear insistence that while he regretted the outcome of that night, he didn't actually regret his actions or feel genuine sorrow for the life he took beyond a superficial acknowledgement that things didn't work out the way he might have hoped. He even called gang life an addictive poison, showing some capacity for self-awareness about the destructive nature of the lifestyle he chose. Yet this insight seemed completely divorced from any real understanding of how his participation in that culture had specifically destroyed Pop Smoke's life and devastated everyone who loved him or was touched by his music. Perhaps most disturbingly, Blockstar revealed that he cut his ankle monitor after his release from juvenile detention, claiming that his probation officer feared for his safety due to potential retaliation from those seeking street justice for Pop Smoke's murder, a claim that raised questions about whether he should have been released at all if authorities genuinely believed his life was in danger and whether the juvenile justice system had adequately prepared him to reintegrate into society. The interview sparked immediate and intense backlash from multiple corners of the hip-hop community and beyond, with voices ranging from media personalities to fellow artists to regular fans expressing their disgust, anger, and disbelief that such a platform had been provided to someone who showed such blatant disrespect for the life he took and the pain he caused to so many people who continue to mourn Pop Smoke's loss years after his death. Backlash, consequences, and the questions that remain. The reaction to Blockstar's No Jumper interview was swift and nearly unanimous in its condemnation, both of what he said and the decision to give him a platform for his message of remorselessness and street code rhetoric. Adam22, the host and founder of No Jumper, found himself at the center of a firestorm as the interview went viral for all the wrong reasons. Mad people questioned his judgment, his ethics, and his motivations for publishing such a controversial conversation with someone whose victim's family was still actively grieving and processing their loss. Adam22 defended the interview by characterizing it as documenting a tragic story for historical purposes, arguing there was value in understanding the perspective of someone who committed such a high-profile crime, particularly given Blockstar's youth. He positioned himself as a journalist preserving cultural history rather than exploiting tragedy for views and engagement. But this defense did little to calm critics who saw the interview as nothing more than clout chasing at the expense of Pop Smoke's memory. DJ Academics was particularly harsh, accusing Adam22 of essentially sending a message to other killers that they too could gain fame and platform by committing high-profile murders and discussing them publicly after serving their time. A dangerous precedent, potentially incentivizing future violence by promising notoriety to those willing to cross the ultimate line. The backlash extended far beyond media personalities and industry heads. On X, formerly Twitter, users condemned the interview as a slap to the East Coast and to Pop Smoke's Brooklyn roots specifically, viewing it as disrespectful to an entire community still mourning their loss. Some commenters went further, explicitly praying for violent repercussions, invoking street justice concepts that operate outside formal legal systems, and have claimed countless lives in communities where gang culture dictates that certain actions demand certain responses. Boozy Badaz publicly blamed Pop Smoke's circle for not retaliating, fueling debates about street justice versus legal legal justice, and what obligations, if any, murder victims' homies have to seek vengeance rather than trusting the legal system, highlighting persistent cultural tensions in hip-hop between cooperation with law enforcement and adherence to street codes demanding personal revenge. Pop Smoke's mother, Audrey Jackson, spoke with Hot 97 about forgiveness, demonstrating the complexity of grief and the difficulty of moving forward after such devastating loss. She acknowledged Christian principles of forgiveness while being honest about ongoing pain that no amount of time or legal proceedings could fully heal. Blockstar, for his part, offered what some might see as a hollow apology during his interview.
I just want to send my condolences and apologize for my actions that I made. I was a kid, and there's no excuse, but that's just the way I grew up. That's the way I had to learn how to live. And if I could, I would go back and fix the situation.
Words that rang hollow, given everything else he said during the conversation. She also expressed frustration with the sentences, particularly Blockstar's relatively brief juvenile sentence despite being the trigger man. That's unfair, she stated about Walker's 29-year sentence, highlighting the painful reality that no punishment can ever balance the scales when a life has been taken and a family has been permanently damaged by violence. The interview raised uncomfortable questions about California's juvenile justice system and whether it adequately serves rehabilitation or public safety goals when dealing with serious violent offenders. Blockstar had served just 4 years before being released back into the streets, a sentence many felt was shockingly lenient for taking a whole life while participating in a violent home invasion robbery. The case highlighted broader patterns in hip-hop violence that continue plaguing the culture. Pop Smoke's inadvertent address revelation through Instagram demonstrated how the same platforms helping artists build their careers and connect with fans can also expose them to predators viewing public displays of wealth as criminal opportunities rather than inspiration for legitimate success. Youth involvement in gang violence, particularly in Los Angeles where gang culture spans generations, creating cycles of violence trapping young people before they understand consequences, remains an intractable problem despite decades of intervention programs and law enforcement efforts to disrupt gang structures. California's juvenile justice laws, while well-intentioned in focusing on rehabilitation over punishment, create situations where young offenders can commit the most serious crimes imaginable and receive sentences seeming disconnected from the severity of their actions, a tension between competing criminal justice values that different people resolve very differently. Blockstar himself offered advice during his interview, seemingly disconnected from his own trajectory.
This is not what y'all want. Like, it's really not what y'all want. Just like what y'all see in the movies, it's real life. Like, and it's cool, it's fun, but it gets serious real quick, and a lot of people float. So just stay in school, and not even stay in school, stay in sports, stay in something to discipline you.
Encouraging young people to avoid streets and focus on education, advice that would have been valuable if only he'd followed it himself instead of becoming a cautionary tale. Yet despite his warnings, his interview may have invited the very danger he claimed to fear. When asked about his current state of mind, he revealed a chilling reality, suggesting he lives in constant fear of both law enforcement and street retaliation. Unconfirmed reports and street rumors suggest related deaths attributed to revenge for Pop Smoke's murder, a grim reminder that violence begets violence in endless spirals, showing no signs of stopping despite everything we know about its futility. Whether Blockstar faces genuine danger from street justice remains unclear. His claim that his probation officer feared for his safety enough to justify cutting his ankle monitor suggests authorities took threats seriously, but raises questions about why he was released, if danger was so serious, and why he was allowed to conduct such a high-profile interview, potentially painting an even larger target on his back. When asked directly about whether he would kill again, his response was unsettling in its ambiguity.
I mean, that's just an assumption. You don't know me. Like, I'm not saying that I won't never do it again, but I'm not sitting intentionally going around killing people. None of us is. But yeah, you don't know me. I got no plans on killing nobody.
Hardly the reassurance society might hope for from someone released back into the community. The broader implications continue reverberating through hip-hop culture and beyond. The debate about platforming individuals like Blockstar touches on fundamental questions about media ethics, free speech, public information rights, and platform responsibilities. Should controversial figures get opportunities to tell their stories, or does doing so exploit tragedy and disrespect victims? There are thoughtful people on both sides without easy answers, satisfying everyone involved. The case forces uncomfortable conversations about what accountability means, particularly for juvenile offenders. Does serving a court-ordered sentence constitute paying society's debt, or does genuine accountability require something more? Genuine remorse, sustained behavior change, active efforts to make amends when harm is as permanent as death? Pop Smoke's legacy continues growing even in death, with posthumous releases ensuring his music reaches new audiences and his influence on drill music remaining undeniable. But for his family, for his homies, for everyone who knew him as Bashar rather than Pop Smoke the artist, the pain remains fresh and raw, especially when forced to watch interviews with his unrepentant killer flexing on social media, claiming he's not sorry for taking their loved one. The disturbing last words referenced in our title aren't literal last words. Blockstar remains alive despite potential danger. Rather, they're the words he's chosen to speak about the murder in the years since, words revealing a mindset largely unchanged despite incarceration. Rest in peace, Pop Smoke. Your music lives on, even as questions about your death continue to haunt those searching for meaning in tragedy that defies easy explanation or comfortable resolution. The Wu movement forever, King. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.